As he was singing, I thought to myself how different our sermons and our prayers would be if we had the life that little boy did. We are blessed beyond measure. I'm going to open today with a prayer. If you want to bow your heads, and I'm going to read it. May God bless us with discomfort. Discomfort at easy answers. Discomfort at half-truths. Discomfort at superficial relationships, so that we may live from deep within our hearts. May God bless us with anger at injustice, anger at oppression, and anger at exploitation of God's creations, so that we may work for justice, freedom, and peace. May God bless us with tears to shed for those who suffer pain, who suffer rejection, who suffer hunger, and suffer war, so that we may reach out our hands to comfort them and to turn their pain into joy. And may God bless us with just enough foolishness to believe that we can make a difference in this world, so that we can do what other claims cannot be done, to bring justice and kindness to all. Amen. So, my message today is called Be Renewed. And I have lots of different scriptures on the paper, but I probably won't be referring to them. You have them on your paper. My overriding scripture that I'm going to use is Romans 12, 1 through 2. And it goes like this. I'm sure this is very familiar to a lot of you. And so, dear brothers and sisters, I plead with you to give your bodies to God because of all He has done for you. Let them be a living and holy sacrifice, the kind He will find acceptable. I'm going to stop right there, because if I'm not a churchgoer and I hear living and holy sacrifice, I'm going to get the heebie-jeebies, okay? Because I just really am. So what does that mean? To have our bodies be living and holy sacrifices? Well, I look at it as this: holy. Okay? If I'm not here, I'm going to be missed. There's going to be a hole. Okay? Number 2, living. All right? My hands, my feet, my arms, my eyes, my ears, my mouth. Let them be a blessing to others, so that I can bless other people in this world and beyond. Right? That's what it is to be a living and holy sacrifice. So it's really not heebie-jeebie. Okay? This is truly the way to worship Him, isn't it? We can talk all we want, but until our body becomes what God needs it to be, it really isn't acceptable. Don't copy the behaviors and the customs of this world. Why not? Because their arms and legs and arms and mouths and eyes and ears are self-absorbed and self-centered. Right? They're not thinking or focusing on anyone else. But let God transform you into a new person. Why? How? By changing the way you think. I love that. We're going to focus on changing the way you think. See, most of us spend our lives in our free time listening to music, watching TV, doing crossword puzzles or cross-stitch, hanging around with our same group of friends, watching sporting events. And while none of these things are wrong, absolutely not, a lot of them are very enjoyable, none of these things will renew our minds and change the way we think. So I'm going to give you my top 10 things, quotes, thoughts, ideas that renewed my mind in 2018. Number 1, joy is soul stirring and happiness is flesh pleasing. Well, I knew that. I think we all know that. But I was reminded of it so much over this Christmas season. You know, joy moves your soul. It changes you. It makes you better. Happiness is a vapor. It's a breath. It's here and it's gone in a snap. You know, over the Christmas holiday, I had all my children home. And we ate great food. Oh, we had prime rib and shrimp and all that wonderful stuff. And that made us all happy for a moment. Right? And we exchanged great gifts, GoPros and iPads and all that wonderful technology stuff. And that made us all happy for a vapor, for a second. But if I look at the top 5 things from my holiday that stirred my heart, that warmed my soul, that changed my being, these would be my top 5. Number 1, watching my husband take the time on a Saturday morning to read a magazine. Now I know that sounds crazy, but he never does it. And I can see him as I'm walking down the stairs and he's sitting in his easy chair with his sweatpants, with his glasses like this, because he's getting old. Taking the time to enjoy the moment and just be instead of doing. Number 2, the laughter around my table as we had 3 generations of family together. Number 3, watching my beautiful granddaughter sleeping next to me on the pillow and that beautiful, precious face of hers. Number 4, seeing Bruce Gustafson's face as he watched Sophie sing last Sunday from church. It was a blessing. Number 5, an early morning hot tub with the snow coming down and watching a new dawn be broken. See, those are the things. No tinsel, no cost, nothing. But it was the joy that made this season wonderful. When you have the choice, when you have the opportunity, always grab the joy. Let the happiness go for somebody else. Number 2, anytime you have an identity in something that can be taken away from you, you live in fear. Think about that. I want to read that again. Anytime you have an identity in something that can be taken away from you, you live in fear. The only identity that will last is being a child of God. That's the only identity that we should claim each and every day. But, like all humans, we create identities on what we do instead of who we are, right? We are a great builder, or a good athlete, or a musician, or a good speaker. And then we live in fear that someone will come along and be better than us. Or we feel pressure to keep the gig going. I mean, I felt like that last night when I was making this message. It's like, hey, the gig's up, Deb. I can't do this anymore. But we have to have our identity in being a child of God. Let me give you an example of this. There was a study that was done. They took 2 groups of probably 4th graders. And in one group, for several weeks, they told them, you are so smart. You are the brightest of the bright. You have so much intelligence, okay? They took the second group of students, and they said, you have such a great work ethic. Man, we see you tackling problems, and we're impressed with your abilities and your ability to work hard. And several weeks later, they brought them together, and they did a series of tests with them. And what they found out is the students that were told how smart they were and how intelligent they were and that they were the brightest of the bright would not tackle the harder problems because they did not want to mess up their identity. They didn't know that. They don't know that. That's why. The kids that were told, we like your work ethic, you're working hard, they tackled the harder problems. Our identities are often given to us by what we do. And the only identity we should have is child of God. I believe that that's why God creates crises in our lives. Crisis literally means to sift. Right? And isn't that what crisis does? Makes us take stock. Makes us get loose of all those identities that we've based our life on. And we come out of crises leaner and freer, typically. I think that's why people who have gone through great traumas or many crises are wiser, more joyful. Because they know that the thing that you really need in life is what nobody can take away from you. And that is love, hope, and faith. So the fear is removed from your lives. So number 2. Anytime you have an identity that can be taken from you, you live in fear. Number 3, quit praying about the leaves and start working on the roots. Let's face it, people, we spend way too much time praying about the leaves instead of working on getting our roots healthy. And do you know what happens when you start pulling weeds and you don't get to the roots? It keeps on coming back. Do you know, if I go to the doctor's with a stomach issue and he treats my symptoms, I'm going to get a stomach ache again, right? I don't have a lot to say about that, but let's work on our roots instead of continually praying about the same leaves. Because if we fix our roots, we don't have to worry about the leaves. They'll take care of themselves. Number 4, discomfort is the price of admission for a purposeful and meaningful life. You know, I remember exactly when I heard this. I was headed down to Grand Rapids to pick my daughter up from the airport, and we were going wedding dress shopping. I was listening to a podcast, and I heard that, and I thought, that is fabulous. And of course, her friends were there to join us in the celebration, and I tried to get that quote in wherever I could throughout the weekend because I thought it was so good and I thought it was so important. Because of this. Okay, sorry, I lost my notes here. Because of this, because we as a society have taught our families, our children, and everyone else that discomfort is something we run away from. Discomfort is something that we avoid at all costs. Discomfort isn't and doesn't or shouldn't have a place in our lives. And that's not true. Living a life with purpose and meaning is going to be discomfort. I was discomforted this weekend as I was preparing for this. Jo May was discomforted this weekend when she was preparing for the music. But if we don't take part of the discomfort, then we don't have this beautiful music. You know, and I don't see any high schoolers here, but this is something that high schoolers really have a hard time with, and that is this. We are all going to feel discomfort, but we do have some control over when we feel it. See, if Jo May wouldn't have prepared for her music, she might not have felt any discomfort, but you can bet this morning she would have felt discomfort when she wasn't ready and the music didn't sound good. As our high school students are preparing for tests, they're going to feel some discomfort giving up their social media or whatever it may be. But in the end, they'll be prepared. Or they can choose to continue with social media and their friends and walk into the test and have discomfort. So, discomfort is a fact of life, but we do have some control over when we can experience it. Number 5, tend to the person tending to the child. This probably won't affect you like it affected me, but this would be my number 1 for the year because it changed the way I practice. It changed the way I do social work. Because for years, I've struggled with saying, I'm giving the children what they need, but then they go home and they get something entirely different. And I've heard teachers be full of frustration that how do I get parents to care about education the way they should? And of course, we all just kind of grumbled and complained. But then I heard this, tend to the parent who is tending to the child. So now the first thing I do when I have someone come into my office is I wonder how I can help that parent. What can I do? What can I say that's going to change that thought process of that parent so that child not only will hear it from me, but will hear it at home every single day. So that tend to the person tending to the child has literally changed my thought process entirely this year. Number 6, life is an inside job. You know, we all are taught, I think, that we can buy it, we can rent it, we can borrow it, we can own it, We can date it. We can get promoted to it. We can bring it home, right? What is it? Fulfillment, peace, joy. But everyone at some time or another finds out that's it. It's an inside job. And oftentimes we find out when it's too late. Andy Stanley says a new do and a new view does not make a new you. And I like that. And still we try to fix inside problems with outside solutions. And I'm telling you that there is nothing outside that will fix an inside problem. You cannot achieve or date peace and serenity. It's an inside job. And you know what? We do this in schools too. We take these children along a course in education to get a good job, to make good money. And we never teach them about the inside. Now, the thing of it is that these students, some are going to go to college, some are going to go to the military, some are just going to get a job, but 100% of them are going to be neighbors of somebody. 100% of them are going to be community members. And 90% of them are going to be fathers and mothers and husbands and wives. And all that we've taught them is to get a good job and make good money. We've not taught them that fulfillment is gotten from the inside. And I think we need to start doing that. So, number 7. Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry, my notes are kind of messed up today. So, number 7. Feelings are compelling, but not entirely reliable. At the end of feelings, there is nothing. There really isn't. But the end of principles, if you're living by principle, there is a promise. Feelings are important. I'm not going to disagree that. If I touch a hot stove and I feel, hurt, that's a good thing. But they're not the most important thing. See, I tell my students at school that your prefrontal cortex should always be in the driver's seat, because your prefrontal cortex is where your decisions are made, where your reasoning is, where is your capacity to think. But it would be pretty boring if all we did was think all day and reason and deduct, right? We'd all be like Sheldon Cooper on The Big Bang Theory. So your amygdala, which is where your emotions and your feelings are, should always come along, but they should always be in the driver's seat. Feelings are like temperature. They go up and down, don't they? They're not static, not like a principle. They go up and down. When our physical temperature goes up, we know there's something the matter with our body, don't we? Have a fever, we know that it's fighting an infection. And when our emotional temperature goes up, we should know there's something the matter with our feelings. There's something going on. And when our body is in physical pain, we become self-absorbed, easily frustrated, and selfish. And this is just the nature of pain. I just took my daughter back to the airport a couple days ago, and she was struggling with a toothache, and she was in great pain. And she was easily frustrated, and she was self-absorbed. It's just the nature of pain. When my dad was dying of cancer, he, who really was probably the kindest man I've ever met, was easily frustrated with my children. They annoyed the heck out of him. It wasn't because of him, it was because of the pain. Pain makes us self-absorbed. When our emotional self is in pain, we also become self-absorbed. Easily frustrated and selfish. And self-absorbed people make self-absorbed decisions. So to make decisions before your emotional temperature goes down is setting yourself up for failure. That's why, and I think we could all raise our hands, we've all made those foolish decisions before. Or we've all had friends where we think, well, what are you doing? You know better than that. Yes, they do. But their emotions are out of whack, and they're making a self-absorbed emotional decision. So feelings are compelling, but not entirely reliable. Number 8, shame says I am, guilt says I did. Shame is a focus on self. Guilt is a focus on behavior. Shame says I am bad, and guilt is I did something bad. Shame is I'm sorry, I made a mistake. Oh, I'm sorry. Shame is I'm sorry, I am a mistake. And guilt is I made a mistake. Shame is a destructive emotion. It's a destructive emotion. Guilt, for the most part, is a helpful emotion because it keeps us on the right path. If it's legitimate guilt, sometimes we get a little bit carried away with that. But I really think it's important, and I've worked on that a lot this year, the difference between shame and guilt. Shame says I am, and guilt says I did. We should be working on the guilt portion. Number 9, and I don't like how I worded this, but give what you need most. And I really, this has really worked with me this Christmas season. That is this. Years ago, I had no money and lots of time. And it was really, really easy for me to give of my time. And I did. And it kind of has reversed, and I think I've shared that before. Now I don't have, I'm very busy. And don't have a ton of money, but money is more plentiful than my time. And it's really easy to write a check. And so we wrote some checks this Christmas. But is that really giving? If I'm giving out of my excess? If it doesn't cost me anything, is it really giving? That's number 1 that I've struggled with this Christmas. Number 2, we are so willing at Christmas time to meet the physical needs of everybody, aren't we? We make sure everybody has hats and mittens and coats and food and presents. And I think that's a great thing. But yet when we see people that have emotional needs, we don't think anything of shutting the door and going into our warm house and not dealing with it. So I want you to ponder that. That are we really giving when it really doesn't cost us anything? When it's not sacrifice? When it's just writing a check or giving my excess of time that I have? And number 2, maybe next year look around for the emotional needs of people. Because if it's an inside job and an outside solution won't fix an inside job, are we really helping with the mittens and the hats and the presents and the food? Or is there a way we could help better or more? And number 10, confidence. Not confidence that, and hope. Not hope that. You know, as our high school seniors go through graduation, I can predict, I think, with fairly high percentages, what students will struggle and what students will not. And some students that I have on my mental list are highly successful in high school. Great grades, good athletes. And any teacher or parent would not have them on their list either. And I haven't thought this all the way through yet, but I believe it has something to do with I have confidence that I can catch the football. Or I have confidence that I can pass the math test. Or I have confidence that I can get first chair in the clarinet section. But I don't have confidence that whatever comes at me, at any time, in any place, I have the ability to figure it out. I think that's the difference. I have confidence that I can do certain things, and I'm confident in some areas, but I don't have that confidence that I can figure it out whatever comes at me. I'm not sure how to teach that yet, but there is definitely something there. The same goes with our relationship with God. We need hope. Not hope that the doctor's appointment will go good. Not hope that I'm going to get that great job. Not hope that my daughter's going to find her husband. We need to have hope in Jesus Christ.
Amen.
Period.
Amen.
So this year, folks, as you're going through the year, first I want to back up a little bit. Here's a couple more ideas that I've chewed on over the year. Prepare the child for the road, not the road for the child. That could be a whole sermon. Gratitude can literally change your life, because if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Wind extinguishes a candle, but energizes a fire. Society's obsession with allowing students to never feel unsafe is the reason for the rise in adolescent depression and anxiety. Almost everything will work again if you unplug it for a few minutes, including you. And that's more of a high school, including you. Help is a sunny side of control. When all is said and done, this is my favorite. When all is said and done, we are really just walking each other home.
I like that.
I like it too. So in this year, take the time to listen to your music. Take the time to watch your favorite sports team. Take the time to do your cross stitch. But make sure you take the time to work on changing the way you think. Let your hands and your feet and your eyes and your ears and your mouth and your heart will be holy sacrifices to change the lives of people around you.